Captain Vextai stood on the bridge of the stellar wind, watching the stars drift past through the main viewing screen. His blue-scaled hands moved over the control panel as he checked their position. The Zephyrian exploration vessel had been mapping this empty sector for 3 weeks now. It was boring work, but someone had to chart the Outer Rim territories for the Galactic Council. "Captain," called Chief Science Officer Krellon from her station. Her voice carried the musical tone typical of her species. "I'm detecting something unusual on long-range sensors." Vextai's head turned toward her. "What kind of something?" "A vessel, sir. Unknown design. It appears to be drifting about 2 light hours from our current position." The captain walked over to her station and looked at the sensor display. A small blip showed on the screen, barely visible against the background radiation of space. "Any life signs?" Krellon's tentacles danced over her controls as she ran deeper scans. "Negative, Captain. The ship appears to be powered down but structurally intact. I'm reading minimal energy output, possibly from backup systems." "Interesting." Vextai stroked the ridge of scales along his chin. "What can you tell me about its construction?" "The materials are primitive, sir. Refined metals, basic alloys. Nothing like our bioorganic hulls or crystalline matrices. The design is also unusual, very angular with what appears to be chemical rocket nozzles at the rear." Navigation Officer Timara looked up from her station. "Captain, the design doesn't match any known species in our databases. This could be first contact with a new civilization." Vextai felt a flutter of excitement in his chest. First contact was rare and always significant. Most species in the galaxy had already joined the Galactic Council or at least made contact with it. Finding a completely unknown vessel was unusual. "Set course for the derelict," he ordered. "Standard approach. Maintain safe distance until we know more." The stellar wind changed direction smoothly. Its bioorganic hull rippled slightly as the living ship adjusted its flight path. Zephyrian vessels were grown rather than built, their hulls alive and capable of self-repair. To Vextai, the idea of flying in a dead metal ship seemed primitive and dangerous. As they drew closer, more details became visible on the sensors. Chief Engineer Nolik joined them on the bridge, his massive frame making the deck plates vibrate slightly with each step. "Captain," he rumbled in his deep voice, "I'm analyzing the propulsion system. It appears to use fusion technology. Very basic, but functional. The energy output suggests this vessel is capable of maybe 1/10 light speed at maximum." "So slow," murmured Timara. "How did they expect to travel between stars at that speed?" Krellon was still running her scans. "I'm detecting strange markings on the hull, Captain. They appear to be symbols of some kind, possibly writing. The ship also has several antenna arrays and what looks like sensor equipment. A scout ship, perhaps," Vextai wondered aloud. "Or maybe a research vessel like ours." The hours passed as they approached the mysterious ship. When they finally came within visual range, the vessel appeared on their main screen. It was indeed angular and metallic, about half the size of the stellar wind. The hull was a dull gray color with white markings that looked like symbols or letters. "Fascinating," breathed Krellon. "The construction is entirely mechanical. No bioorganic components at all. And look at these markings, they're painted on the hull rather than grown into it." Nolik shook his head. "Such a crude way to mark a vessel. Paint will fade and chip in the radiation of space." Vextai studied the ship carefully. Despite its primitive appearance, something about it seemed purposeful. The design was clean and efficient even if it used basic materials. "Any idea which system this might have come from?" Timara checked her navigation charts. Based on the ship's current trajectory and assuming it's been drifting for some time, it could have originated from the Sol system. "That's an uncontacted region in the outer spiral arm. Sol?" Vextai searched his memory. "I don't recall any reports of civilization in that area." "No, sir. The Council's surveys classified it as a backwater system with one inhabited world. The species there was listed as pre-space flight when last observed about 50 of their years ago." Krellon looked up from her sensors. "If this ship is from Sol, then they've advanced much faster than expected. This vessel shows clear signs of interstellar capability." Vextai nodded slowly. It wasn't uncommon for species to develop space travel quickly, once they reached a certain technological level. The transition from planet-bound to starfaring could happen in just a few generations. "Shall we attempt contact, Captain?" asked Communications Officer Dextar from his station. Vextai considered this. Standard procedure was to attempt communication with any unknown vessel, especially if it might represent first contact with a new species. Even if the ship was abandoned, its builders might still be alive somewhere. Yes, transmit standard greeting protocols, he decided. Use the basic mathematical sequences first, then try some simple pictographs. If there's anyone listening, we want them to know we're peaceful. Dextar's hands moved over his controls. Transmitting now, Captain. Basic mathematical progression, followed by peaceful intent symbols. The bridge fell quiet as they waited for a response. First contact was always tense. You never knew how a new species would react to meeting aliens. Some were friendly, others were frightened, and a few had been hostile. Minutes passed with no response. Vextai wasn't surprised. If the ship was truly abandoned, there would be no one to answer. And if the builders were back in their home system, the signal would take hours to reach them. Keep transmitting, he ordered. Try different frequencies and language patterns. If there's anyone out there, we want to give them every chance to respond. As the stellar wind continued its slow approach to the mysterious vessel, none of its crew suspected that their simple first contact attempt was about to change everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. The primitive-looking ship before them was far more than it appeared, and the species that built it had been watching the Galactic Council for much longer than anyone could imagine. The universe was about to become a much more interesting place. Dextar had been transmitting for nearly an hour when something impossible happened. His equipment suddenly came alive with activity, lights flashing across his communication panel in patterns he had never seen before. "Captain," he called out, his voice tight with confusion. "Something's happening to our transmission." Vextai hurried over to the communication station. "What do you mean?" "Our signal, sir, it's being intercepted. But not by the derelict ship. Something else is grabbing our transmission and routing it somewhere else. The signal is being bounced through what looks like a network of relay stations." Krillon looked up from her science station, her tentacles moving rapidly over the controls. "I'm detecting massive data transfers, Captain. Our simple greeting is being processed and translated in real time. But the processing power required for this would need equipment larger than our entire ship." "That's impossible," said Nolek. "There are no other ships in this sector. Our sensors would have detected them." Dextar's panel chimed softly. "Captain, I'm receiving a response. But it's not coming from the derelict ship. It's coming from somewhere else entirely. The signal has traveled thousands of light years in just minutes." Vextai felt his scales prickle with unease. Faster-than-light communication existed, but it required quantum entanglement arrays that took months to set up between fixed points. No one could establish instant communication with a random location in space. "Put it on the main speakers," he ordered. A moment later, a clear voice filled the bridge. The words were spoken in perfect galactic standard with an accent none of them recognized. "This is Houston Control, Earth Defense Network. You have encountered one of our deep space monitoring stations. Please state your intentions in this sector." The bridge fell completely silent. Every member of the crew stared at the speakers in shock. Vextai felt his legs go weak. This was supposed to be first contact with a primitive species. But the voice that had just spoken was calm, professional, and completely in control of the situation. Did they just call that derelict a monitoring station?" whispered Tim'ara. Krellon was frantically running new scans of the mysterious ship. "Captain, I'm reanalyzing the vessel. If I adjust for camouflage technology and assume the external appearance is designed to look primitive..." "Yes, I can detect advanced systems hidden throughout the hull." The voice came through the speakers again. "Zephyrian vessel Stellar Wind, we are aware of your exploration mission in this sector. Are you experiencing any difficulties that require assistance?" Vextai's blood went cold. They knew his ship's name. They knew his species. How was that possible? Dextar looked at his captain with wide eyes. "Sir, how do I respond to this?" Vextai gathered his composure and activated the communication system. "This is Captain Vextai of the Galactic Council Survey Division. We detected what appeared to be a derelict vessel and attempted standard first contact protocols. We were not aware this sector was monitored by your species." There was a brief pause before the voice responded. "Understood, Captain Vextai. Please hold while we connect you with our first contact division." The casual way the human had said first contact division sent chills down Vextai's spine. This wasn't a species just discovering other life in the universe. They had an entire division dedicated to meeting aliens. A new voice came through the speakers, this one female. Captain Vextai, this is Director Lisa Martinez, Earth First Contact Division. We apologize for any confusion. We've been monitoring galactic communications for some time and are familiar with Council protocols. Monitoring galactic communications? Vextai repeated. For how long? Approximately 52 Earth years, Captain. We've found it beneficial to observe and learn before making formal contact. Nolek stepped forward. That's impossible. Our communication networks are encrypted and protected. No primitive species could break our security. Director Martinez chuckled softly. With respect, Engineer Nolek, your security systems are designed to keep other Council species from listening in. They weren't designed to stop someone who developed their technology along completely different principles. The fact that she knew Nolek's rank and function made his massive frame tremble slightly. These humans seemed to know everything about them. Another voice joined the conversation. Captain Vextai, this is Ensign Pete Chen, speaking to you from Watchtower 7, the monitoring station you discovered. I've been observing your ship for the past 3 days. 3 days? Timora gasped. Our sensors never detected any active surveillance. That's because our stealth technology operates on principles your sensors aren't designed to recognize, Chen explained. We've been very careful to remain undetected until we were ready for contact. Krelon was pulling up star charts on her display. Captain, if they've been monitoring us for 50 years, they would have learned our languages, studied our technology, and observed our political structures. They could know more about the Galactic Council than we know ourselves. A fourth voice came through the speakers, older and with a slight accent. This is Dr. Amy Roberts, Chief Xenobiologist for the Earth Defense Network. Your assessment is correct, Officer Krelon. We have detailed files on all major Council species, including biological data, social structures, and technological capabilities. Vextai felt dizzy. Everything he thought he knew about this first contact was wrong. This wasn't a primitive species stumbling into galactic civilization. These humans had been studying the galaxy for decades while keeping themselves completely hidden. How many monitoring stations do you have? He asked, though he was afraid of the answer. Director Martinez answered. Currently, we maintain monitoring posts throughout Council space. The exact number is classified, but I can tell you that very little happens in the galaxy without our knowledge. Dextar was frantically checking his equipment. Captain, I'm detecting communication relays activating all around us. There are stations hidden throughout this entire sector. Not just this sector, said Chen. Captain, you're currently surrounded by 6 cloaked vessels, all within weapons range. Don't worry. They're only there for our protection. We prefer peaceful contact whenever possible. Vextai looked around his bridge at his crew's shocked faces. They had walked into what they thought was a simple first contact situation, and instead found themselves surrounded by an unknown species that had been watching them for decades. What do you want from us? He asked finally. Right now, Captain, we just want to talk, said Director Martinez. You've discovered one of our stations, which means it's time for formal contact between our species. We've been preparing for this moment for a very long time. The realization hit Vextai like a physical blow. The humans hadn't been discovered by accident. They had allowed themselves to be found. This entire encounter was happening exactly as they had planned it. Director Martinez's voice came through the speakers again, calm and professional. Captain Vextai, before we proceed, I think it would be helpful for you to understand exactly what you've stumbled into. Are you willing to listen? Vextai looked around his bridge. His crew was staring at him with expressions ranging from fear to fascination. They were completely out of their depth, but backing down now would gain them nothing. We're listening, he said. Good. First, let me clarify something about our monitoring station. What you're seeing as a primitive derelict ship is actually one of our most advanced surveillance platforms. The external appearance is designed to look like early spaceflight technology from various species we've studied. Ensign Chen's voice joined in from the monitoring station. Captain, our stealth technology doesn't just hide us from sensors. It creates false readings that make our ships appear to be whatever we want them to appear to be. In this case, we wanted to look like a ship that had been drifting for decades. Krelon was running new scans with different parameters. Captain, if I filter for quantum masking and assume the external readings are false, I'm detecting a power signature comparable to a Council battlecruiser. This little ship has been hiding enormous energy output. Dr. Roberts spoke up from Earth. Officer Krelon, That monitoring station has been in position for 12 years. During that time, Ensign Chen and his team have cataloged over 3,000 vessel transits through your patrol routes. We know your ship specifications better than your own engineers do. Nolek's voice was barely a whisper. 12 years? You've been watching us for 12 years? That particular station, yes, said Dr. Roberts. But we've been studying the Galactic Council much longer. Would you like to know what we've learned? Vextai felt like he was drowning in information that challenged everything he believed about the galaxy. Tell us. A new voice joined the conversation, older, with more authority. Captain, this is Admiral Kevin Murphy, commanding Earth's deep space operations. Dr. Roberts, why don't you give our new friends a brief overview of our findings? Certainly, Admiral. Captain Vextai, in the 52 years we've been monitoring galactic civilization, we've identified several concerning patterns. The Galactic Council, while generally peaceful, has a tendency toward expansionist policies that often ignore the rights of smaller civilizations. Timara objected. The Council brings peace and prosperity to new worlds. Sometimes, Dr. Roberts agreed. But we've also documented 17 cases where Council expansion has resulted in the forced relocation of native populations, 6 cases of cultural extinction, and 3 instances where entire species were pressured into abandoning their traditional ways of life. Director Martinez added, we've been particularly concerned about the Council's treatment of species that refuse to join. The economic and political pressure applied to independent worlds is quite severe. Vextai felt his scales flush with embarrassment. The Council did sometimes use strong tactics with stubborn species, but it was always for the greater good. Wasn't it? Admiral Murphy's voice was firm but not hostile. Captain, we're not condemning the Council. Most of your policies do result in peace and prosperity, but we've decided that the galaxy needs a balancing force, someone watching to make sure the most powerful civilizations don't abuse their strength. And you think you can be that balancing force? Asked Vextai. We already are, said Director Martinez. Captain, are you familiar with the Corvani crisis 7 years ago? Vextai nodded, then realized they couldn't see him. Yes. The Corvani were planning to attack several Council worlds, but their fleet suffered a series of mechanical failures that delayed them long enough for diplomats to negotiate peace. Those weren't mechanical failures, said Admiral Murphy. Our people infiltrated their shipyards and introduced subtle flaws into their propulsion systems. Nothing dangerous, just enough to ground their fleet until cooler heads could prevail. The bridge was silent as this revelation sank in. The humans had prevented a major war through sabotage, and no one in the Council had ever known. Dr. Roberts continued. We've intervened in galactic affairs dozens of times, Captain. Always quietly, always with the goal of preventing unnecessary conflict. The Council's records show a remarkable period of peace over the past few decades. That's not an accident. Ensign Chen spoke from his monitoring station. Captain, we've been particularly active in your sector. 3 times in the past 5 years, we've detected Council survey ships heading toward inhabited worlds that weren't ready for contact. Each time we created technical problems that forced the ships to return to base until the native populations had more time to develop. Vextai remembered those incidents. In each case, his own department had launched investigations into what seemed like unusual equipment failures. They had never found any evidence of sabotage. How many of you are there? He asked. Admiral Murphy answered. That's classified information, Captain. But I can tell you that Earth's population is highly motivated to serve in deep space operations. We see it as our responsibility to help maintain galactic peace. Director Martinez added. We've also been studying Council technology and developing our own alternatives. In many cases, we've found more efficient solutions to problems the Council has solved through brute force. Such as? Asked Nolek. A new voice answered, young, enthusiastic, with a technical background. This is Engineer Tony Walsh, Earth Defense Network. Take your propulsion systems, for example. Council ships use massive antimatter reactors to power quantum drives. Our fusion quantum hybrid systems produce the same speed with 1/10 the energy requirements and much better fuel efficiency. Nolek was skeptical. Impossible. Antimatter is the most efficient fuel source known. For raw power output, yes, Walsh agreed. But not for efficiency. Our systems use controlled quantum tunneling to reduce mass during acceleration. It's like temporarily making the ship lighter instead of just pushing it harder. Krelon was studying her readings again. Captain, if their propulsion technology is that advanced and they've been studying us for 50 years, what else have they developed? Dr. Roberts answered her question. We've made significant advances in medical technology, materials science, and information processing. Our lifespans are approximately 3 times longer than they were when we first detected council signals. We've eliminated most genetic diseases and significantly enhanced human physical and mental capabilities. Enhanced how? Asked Vextai. Improved memory, faster reflexes, better coordination, enhanced problem-solving abilities, she listed. Nothing dramatic, but enough to give us an edge in complex situations. Admiral Murphy's voice carried a note of pride. Captain, the humans you're speaking with today represent our best and brightest. But what makes them special isn't just their individual abilities. It's how well they work together. Human civilization has developed some very effective organizational methods, Director Martinez concluded. Captain Vextai, what we're trying to tell you is that first contact between our species isn't really first contact at all. We've been sharing the galaxy for decades. The only thing that's changed is that now you know we're here. Vextai stared at the communication panel, trying to process everything he had learned. Humanity wasn't a primitive species stumbling into galactic civilization. They were a highly advanced civilization that had been secretly managing galactic affairs while the Council remained completely unaware of their existence. The question now was, what did they want? Captain Vextai stared at the communication panel for a long moment before speaking. Director Martinez, with all respect, these claims are difficult to believe. You're asking us to accept that your species has been operating throughout Council space for decades, without being detected. I understand your skepticism, Captain, came the reply. Admiral Murphy, are you prepared to authorize a limited demonstration? Admiral Murphy's voice was thoughtful. Given the circumstances, I think a show of capabilities is appropriate. Captain Vextai, would you prefer a technical demonstration or something more visible? Before Vextai could answer, Dextar suddenly looked up from his station with alarm. Captain, I'm detecting multiple ships decloaking around us. The main viewing screen shifted to show the space around the stellar wind. One by one, sleek vessels began appearing as if materializing from empty space. They were similar in design to the monitoring station, but larger, with smooth hulls that seemed to bend light around them. What you're seeing, said a new voice with a slight accent, are 6 ships from Earth's deep space fleet. This is Lieutenant Colonel Rachel Green, commanding the stealth destroyer Silent Running. We've been escorting you since you entered this sector. Timara was frantically checking her navigation sensors. Captain, these ships were completely invisible to our systems. Even now that I can see them, my sensors are having trouble maintaining a lock. Engineer Walsh's voice came through the speakers. Officer Timara, your sensors are designed to detect energy signatures, metal hulls, and quantum disturbances. Our ships use biomimetic hulls that copy the background radiation of space and quantum dampening, fields that make us nearly invisible to conventional detection methods. Krell, ran deep scans on the newly visible ships. Captain, I'm reading power signatures that don't match any known technology. Their propulsion systems are completely different from ours. That's because we developed our technology along different principles, explained Lieutenant Colonel Green. While the Council focused on raw power and impressive displays, we concentrated on efficiency and stealth. Our ships can travel at comparable speeds to yours while using much less energy and producing almost no detectable emissions. Admiral Murphy's voice carried a note of pride. Captain Vextai, what you're looking at represents 50 years of human engineering focused on one goal: remaining undetected while operating in Council space. Every system on those ships is designed for stealth operations. Vextai looked at the ships surrounding his vessel. They were beautiful in a way, sleek and purposeful with lines that seemed to flow like water. But they were also intimidating. His ship was completely surrounded by vessels he had never seen coming. How many ships do you have? He asked. That's classified, Admiral Murphy replied. But I can tell you that we have sufficient forces to protect our interests and maintain our monitoring operations throughout the galaxy. A new voice joined the conversation, warm and friendly, with expertise clear in every word. Captain, this is Dr. Helen Cruz, Chief Medical Officer for the Deep Space Fleet. Would you like to know about some of our other advances? Such as? Vextai asked, though he was beginning to dread the answers. Well, the average human lifespan is now approximately 400 years, with full physical and mental health maintained throughout. We've eliminated genetic diseases, enhanced immune systems, and improved healing rates. The crew members you're speaking with today will likely live and work for centuries. Nolek was incredulous. 400 years? That's longer than most council species. It is, Dr. Cruz agreed. We've also enhanced human physical capabilities. Improved strength, faster reflexes, better coordination. Nothing superhuman, but enough to give us significant advantages in complex situations. Enhanced how? Asked Kraylon. Careful genetic modifications made over several generations combined with advanced medical technology. We can repair damage at the cellular level and optimize biological systems for peak performance. Engineer Walsh added, we've also made major advances in materials science. The hulls of our ships use programmable matter that can change its properties based on environmental conditions. In space, it mimics background radiation. In atmosphere, it can become nearly transparent. Lieutenant Colonel Green's voice carried a hint of amusement. Captain Vextai, your ship's bioorganic hull is impressive, but it's designed for self-repair and adaptation. Our hulls are designed for invisibility and deception. Different priorities, different solutions. Dextar was monitoring the communication networks around them. Captain, I'm detecting massive data transfers between the human ships. They're sharing information faster than our quantum networks can process it. That's our distributed intelligence system, explained a new voice with a technical background. This is communications specialist Matt Johnson. Every human ship is connected to our network, sharing processing power and information in real time. When one ship learns something, all ships know it instantly, Admiral Murphy continued. But our most significant achievement isn't technological, Captain. It's organizational. We've learned to coordinate activities across thousands of light years with precision that the Council has never achieved. What do you mean? Asked Vextai. Director Martinez answered. Captain, are you familiar with the trade disputes between the Altarian Federation and the Centauri Alliance 3 years ago? Yes, Vextai replied. The situation nearly led to war before both sides suddenly agreed to negotiate. Both sides received anonymous intelligence packages that revealed corruption in their respective governments, said Matt Johnson, information that made them realize their real enemies were internal, not external. Those packages contained data gathered by our monitoring networks over several months. You manipulated them into peace? Timara asked. We provided them with truth, Director Martinez corrected. What they did with that truth was their choice. But yes, we've prevented dozens of conflicts by ensuring that the right information reaches the right people at the right time. Admiral Murphy's voice was serious. Captain, the galaxy is full of species that could destroy each other if they let fear and anger control their decisions. We've made it our mission to provide alternatives to violence whenever possible. Dr. Cruz added, we've also been studying council medical practices and have developed treatments for several diseases that your doctors consider incurable. We've shared some of these advances anonymously through your medical networks. Vextai felt overwhelmed. You're telling us that human medicine is more advanced than council medicine? In some areas, yes, Dr. Cruz replied. We've had the advantage of studying multiple species' medical knowledge while developing our own techniques. The combination has produced some remarkable results. Engineer Walsh spoke up again. Captain, we've also solved some engineering problems that the Council struggles with. Our ships require about half the maintenance of comparable Council vessels, and our equipment failure rates are significantly lower. How? Asked Nolek. Better materials, more efficient designs, and predictive maintenance systems that prevent problems before they occur, Walsh explained. When you can monitor every component in real time and predict when it will fail, you can replace parts before they break. Lieutenant Colonel Green added, we've also developed combat capabilities, though we prefer not to use them. Our ships are armed, but our weapons are designed to disable rather than destroy. We believe in proportional response. Admiral Murphy concluded, Captain Vextai, what we're showing you is that humanity has become a major power in the galaxy while remaining completely hidden. We've been working to maintain peace and stability for decades, and we're very good at it. Vextai looked around his bridge at his stunned crew. Everything they thought they knew about the galaxy had been turned upside down. The humans weren't just another species joining galactic civilization. They were already running it from behind the scenes. What happens now? He asked. Admiral Murphy's voice was thoughtful as he answered Vextai's question. What happens now depends largely on how the Galactic Council chooses to respond to this information, Captain. We're prepared for several different scenarios. A new voice joined the conversation, smooth, diplomatic, with the confidence of someone accustomed to delicate negotiations. Captain Vextai, this is Ambassador Carl Davis, Earth's Chief Diplomatic Officer. I'm currently en route to your position with a full diplomatic team. Vextai felt his scales prickle. You have diplomats already coming here? We've been preparing for this moment for decades, Captain, Ambassador Davis replied. When one of our monitoring stations was discovered, we knew it would lead to formal contact. We have diplomatic teams stationed throughout the galaxy, ready to respond within hours. Another voice joined in, female, professional, with a slight warmth that suggested experience in delicate situations. This is Nina Foster, diplomatic liaison for first contact situations. Captain, we want to assure you that we have no hostile intentions toward the Council or any of its member species. Director Martinez added, Captain, humanity's goal has always been peaceful coexistence. We've remained hidden not because we're afraid of the Council, but because we wanted to understand galactic civilization before revealing ourselves. Vextai found his voice. And what have you concluded from your observations? Ambassador Davis answered carefully. The Galactic Council is generally a positive force in the galaxy, Captain. You've brought peace and prosperity to many worlds. But like any large organization, the Council sometimes loses sight of individual needs in favor of broad policies. We've also noticed that the Council can be inflexible, added Nina Foster. When faced with problems, the Council tends to apply the same solutions regardless of local conditions. Sometimes a more subtle approach would be more effective. A new voice joined the conversation, older with the authority of someone accustomed to making difficult decisions. Captain Vextai, this is Director of Strategic Operations Greg Palmer. We've been working to prevent conflicts and reduce suffering throughout the galaxy. Sometimes that means working against Council policies. Vextai felt a chill. What do you mean, working against Council policies? Nothing violent or destructive, Palmer assured him. But when we see the Council about to make a decision that will cause unnecessary harm, we sometimes influence events to encourage better outcomes. Krelon spoke up from her station. You manipulate galactic politics? We provide information and create opportunities, Palmer corrected. What people do with those opportunities is their choice. But yes, we've learned that the right information delivered at the right moment can prevent wars, save lives, and protect civilizations. Admiral Murphy's voice carried a note of pride. Captain, in the 50 years we've been operating, galactic civilization has experienced unprecedented peace and stability. That's not an accident, Nina Foster added. We've also been working to protect smaller civilizations from being overwhelmed by Council expansion. Sometimes a species needs more time to develop before they're ready for galactic contact. Director Martinez continued. We've prevented 3 major wars, stopped dozens of smaller conflicts, and protected 17 civilizations from premature contact, all while remaining completely undetected by Council intelligence services. Vextai felt dizzy. You're telling us that you've been managing galactic affairs for decades? Managing is too strong a word, Ambassador Davis replied. We prefer to think of ourselves as gardeners. We provide the right conditions for peace to grow, but we don't control what grows in that peace. A new voice joined the conversation, crisp, professional, with the confidence of someone accustomed to security matters. Captain, this is Chief Security Officer Laura Kim. I want to assure you that your ship and crew are completely safe. We have no intention of detaining you or restricting your movements. What about our report to the Council? Asked Timara. Ambassador Davis answered. You're free to report whatever you choose, Officer Timara. In fact, we're counting on it. It's time for the Council to know that humanity exists and has been working to maintain galactic peace. Director Palmer added, Captain, we're offering the Council a choice. We can continue operating as we have been, quietly behind the scenes, helping to prevent conflicts and maintain stability. Or we can become an open partner in galactic governance. What would that partnership look like? Asked Vextai. That would be up to the Council to decide, Ambassador Davis replied. We're not interested in joining as a junior member. We've proven our capabilities and our commitment to peace. Any partnership would have to be between equals. Nina Foster explained. We have resources, technology, and organizational methods that could benefit the entire galaxy. We also have a perspective that comes from observing galactic civilization from the outside. Admiral Murphy's voice was firm. But we're not going to give up our independence, Captain. Humanity will remain free to act according to our own principles and values. We've seen what happens to species that surrender their autonomy to the Council. Dr. Cruz added, we're also prepared to share some of our medical and technological advances with Council species. We believe that improved health and longer lifespans would benefit everyone. Engineer Walsh continued, our energy and propulsion technologies could help reduce the environmental impact of galactic civilization. More efficient systems mean less resource consumption and less waste. Communications specialist Johnson added, our information networks could help coordinate responses to galactic emergencies much faster than current Council systems allow. Lieutenant Colonel Green concluded, and our peacekeeping capabilities could help maintain stability in regions where the Council has limited presence. Ambassador Davis summarized, Captain, what we're offering is a partnership that could usher in a new era of galactic peace and prosperity. But it has to be a partnership of equals, not a takeover by either side. Bextai looked around his bridge at his crew. They were all staring at him, waiting for his response. The weight of making first contact with a species that could change the entire galaxy was almost crushing. How do I know you're telling the truth about your peaceful intentions? He asked. Chief Security Officer Kim answered. Captain, if we wanted to harm the Council, we could have done so at any time over the past 50 years. We had access to your communication networks, your military systems, and your government databases. We could have crippled galactic civilization without anyone knowing we existed, Director Palmer added. Instead, we used that access to prevent conflicts and protect vulnerable species. Our actions over 5 decades prove our commitment to peace. Admiral Murphy's voice was warm. Captain Vextai, you're about to become the most important person in galactic history. You're the first Council representative to learn that humanity exists. How you report this encounter will shape the relationship between our civilizations for centuries to come. Nina Foster concluded, we hope you'll tell the Council that humanity is ready for open cooperation. We have much to offer, and we believe the galaxy will be better for our partnership. Vextai took a deep breath. When he had woken up this morning, he had been a routine survey captain on a boring mapping mission. Now he was the bridge between 2 civilizations, one of which had been secretly managing galactic affairs for decades. Ambassador Davis, he said finally, I think it's time for me to meet you in person. We'll be happy to arrange that, Captain, came the reply. Welcome to a larger universe. As Vextai prepared to make the most important report of his career, he realized that the galaxy had just become a much more interesting place. And somehow that didn't seem like a bad thing at all.